So just take that time to really listen to your customers, get feedback, give them all the forms, surveys you can, reward them, get those reviews, do a great job and really listen to what they want and what they're saying. I think that's a big part of marketing is understand what your client base wants and what the other brands aren't offering, what the other stores that they could go to just aren't doing for them. I try to tap into that and see how we can be better and fill those gaps.
This is Social Pulse Podcast Retail Edition, your go to guide to solving your biggest retail social media marketing challenges authentically. I'm your host, Mike Alton, and each episode is an honest and frank look at what marketers go through, from awful algorithms to terrific trends and ideas that you can apply to your own business. And now, the rest of today's episode. Welcome back to Social Pulse Podcast Retail Edition, where we're digging into the challenges, the successes, and the stories of social media community professionals in the industry, just like you. Subscribe to gain valuable insights that you'll be able to apply to your own work and social presence from each and every episode. Let me know if this sounds familiar. Have you ever felt like your hands are tied behind your back when trying to market your retail business? Imagine trying to build a brand when traditional advertising channels are literally closed to you. Social media platforms regularly shut down your accounts, and payment processors won't touch your industry. That's exactly what marketers in the cannabis industry face every single day. How do you reach your target audience when the most effective channels are off limits? How do you build brand awareness when you can't run Facebook ads or Google search campaigns? These challenges might seem insurmountable, but they've forced cannabis marketers to become some of the most innovative and resourceful professionals in the retail space. Today's guest knows these struggles intimately and has developed remarkable strategies to overcome them. Join us, we welcome Roman Nunez, marketing director at KANNA Dispensary, who brings a fascinating blend of tech startup experience and creative artistry to the cannabis industry. Roman isn't just a marketing professional, he's also a music producer, DJ, skateboarder, and graffiti artist who's leveraged his diverse creative background to build KANNA's brand voice from the ground up. His unique approach to authentic marketing in a heavily restricted industry offers valuable lessons for any retail marketer facing challenges with regulations, platform limitations, or audience targeting. Hey, Roman, welcome to the show.
Mike, thanks for having me. How you doing?
My pleasure. So excited to have you on here. I got to admit, this is an industry I'm not truly very familiar with, particularly from a professional marketing perspective. So I'm really keen to learn from you. But before we dive into cannabis marketing, I'd love to know your background. How did you go from DJ, music producer, and graphic artist, and how has that shaped your brand building?
It's basically it all falls along the same line of creativity. So, the music stuff, I was sort of born into it. I had an older cousin that put me on, and it just kind of I was sort of born into that. And the art kind of came along with it, with skateboarding. Growing up in the '90s, there was a lot of culture. It was very rich, and it sort of sparked my creative side. Um, that turned into, being an artist in general, and, it translated to marketing, and I ended up, kinda going through the startup world, very scrappy industry, and just getting the word out that way. But yeah, the creative side definitely informed, the marketing stuff for sure.
Fantastic. So I'm glad you're here with that background. Let's talk about this cannabis industry. I know it faces numerous marketing restrictions. What are some of the most surprising limitations that you encountered when you first got into this space?
Well, I mean, you're essentially operating in a interesting space in cannabis. You're doing something that's federally illegal. Um, at simultaneously, you're seeing benefit in your community. You're helping people with pain, with stress, PTSD. You're doing the right thing, but for some reason, you're not allowed to tell the world about it. So it's a really interesting place to be in. Um, Lots of challenges, like you mentioned earlier, we can't do anything on social media. So it's been kind of navigating that path with Meta, to see what we can post. So we can do things like, um, we can foster our community. We could talk about our events. We can do educational stuff. Um, So there is ways around it without like specifically advertising your product, like say someone who was selling clothes can do. You can't have a buy now button. Nothing's for sale. So you've got to be really creative, and a lot of it has to do with education and really fostering that community.
Got it. So you can have an organic presence on the Meta platforms. What about the other platforms? I'm assuming you can use TikTok and Blue Sky and the others.
Yeah, TikTok, same thing. You got to be really careful. It's a lot of for TikTok, it's just about showing and telling without saying it. So we're showing our products, we're having fun. We've got some young, really savvy social media bud tenders, we call them, that are at our dispensary. And during their downtime, they make these really funny, compelling TikTok videos, and it's great. It's not something, I'm a little bit older. I'm in my 40s, so I'm not super savvy on making, TikTok dances and stuff. But it really helps to have those young people that do work for us. They're like dialed in to social media, so we kind of let them go crazy, and they're having fun without advertising cannabis. They're just kind of like having a good time with music, showing off the product, but not specifically selling anything.
Got it. Got it. So we're trying to create an organic presence. How did you go about actually defining your brand voice? What role would you say then that your creative pursuits played in that development?
Well, like for as a kid, growing up in the 90s especially, like I'm still a Nike head. Like I've always enjoyed brands like Nike. I've really I really like I really am attracted to brands that have really simple design. Like, I think Chanel has one of the best looking brands. Like, just everything they do is so simple. There's not a lot of fluff or detail. Um, Apple, it's just like you have that symbol. It's very clean. Like, I've always been kind of a minimalist in that way, and I've always been attracted to that. It's like there's something left to the imagination with that. Um, when we started the brand, for me, it was about being iconic and having, like, an icon, like those brands that I was attracted to, so I really kinda started with that and started trying to build our brand voice, and so I came from Yelp too, and Yelp always has this, like, really fun brand voice, so I wanted us to be fun, but also because it's a Black-owned business, it's in Oakland, like, I wanted to have, like, a little bit of authenticity into where we come from. So when we
Mm.
speak to our target audience, we're a little more familiar, if I can say it like that. We're basically just like we want to be your mom and pop store, local store. So we really interact with um, our we call them our can of fam. We really call each other family. When people walk into the store, they feel like they're at home. So we really kind of just try to like foster those tight relationships because we can't advertise like you mentioned. So it's a lot of it is about making people feel like they're part of a family.
As a storyteller, I love how you're weaving in all these critical elements, your voice, your style, your culture. That's now all a part of not only who you are, but it's a part of the messaging and it's reflecting and it's reflected in everything that you're doing online, which is terrific. And that's why you guys are having so much success in building community. I know many of the retailers listening, they might face some sort of restriction, maybe not the exact same ones that you are, maybe not as severe as cannabis. What are some universal principles maybe that we could talk about from a restricted marketing perspective? I don't know if community is one of them, or maybe you have ideas for others.
Yeah, I mean, a big one is universal principle of marketing in our space is listening. I think that is a big piece that sometimes other brands miss is really listen to your constituents. Like I spent some time just bud tending. I've not like I have a little bit experience, but not a lot because I just really wanted to listen and understand our client's voice. Um, and basically yeah, so just take that time to really listen to your customers, get feedback, give them all the forms, surveys you can, reward them, get those reviews, do a great job and really listen to what they want and what they're saying. I think that's a big part of marketing is understand what your client base wants and what the other brands aren't offering, what the other stores that they could go to just aren't doing for them. I try to tap into that and see how we can be better and fill those gaps.
Roman, that is a huge piece of advice. So fundamentally true. I don't care what restrictions you have in your brand. You can still talk to your customers and you can still learn from them and you can still research the competition and learn from them. So I love that you shared that. I'd love if you could give an example maybe of some kind of creative marketing solution that you've implemented that really worked like shockingly well, despite all these limitations that you had.
So, honestly, man, our biggest tool, we do is, in every business, this is probably going to be true this day and age, is collecting those emails, collecting those phone numbers, getting that gold, from your customers because you use that to segment your SMS marketing, your email blasts. You could reach out to customers who, for example, we have customers that come in that really like edibles. So what I'll do is I'll segment that group and I'll reach out to them with customized digital assets that are aimed at bringing those customers back through our door. We'll tell them about fresh drops, things that are happening, um, educational stuff. So I really like the segmentation aspect of understanding what customers want and marketing to them directly rather than just using like blanket solutions. So I would say our biggest success has come from email and SMS marketing, and using those segments to really surgically get in there and send the right message to the right people.
That's fantastic. Now, you also mentioned events a
Yeah.
moment ago. Those in-person events, tell me what those look like.
What's funny is the challenge is there too with these events. When we first opened, we have a huge backyard. It's beautiful. There's grass. There's picnic tables. So we were utilizing that and having a great time. But you know, ultimately we have some neighbors, and so we've had DJs back there and stuff, and it's just some people in the neighborhood, they just don't want us there because we're a dispensary. So they have this idea of what we could be. And so I really spent a lot of time going to the neighbors saying, "Hey, we want to invite you to our backyard. We're having a barbecue, this and that." Um, but that ultimately turned out to not work because then eventually, we had issues with permit issues back there. And so we said, okay, let's reset. Since we can't just do whatever we want in our backyard, let's now strategize educational stuff. So we have in-store demos with some of our brands, and we'll have them come in and they'll set up their like a little table with, kind of like informational stuff and just kind of connect so the customers connect with the brands directly. We do in-store demos, and that really does help. I mean, if people aren't expecting it and they come in, sometimes they get introduced to a new brand. So having some of those brands that we carry from a retail perspective come in and do, an in-store demo. Say maybe we'll have a food vendor come and just make tacos for a few hours. It cost us, maybe $500 or something, but some of those interactions can be lifelong customers that we're taking care of, and communities in our brand name. So we like to just kind of do stuff to give back to the community in lieu of some of those restrictions. But as far as events, yeah, it's a lot of in-store demos. Um, we do have a Oktoberfest on our block. That shuts down the street every year on October, and there's music and food vendors and it's really a chance for the general public to like get introduced to us. So we really take advantage of that festival that happens on our street every year. It's in Oakland, California. It's called Oktoberfest, typically the last weekend of October, and just a ton of music, and it's really fun. So I encourage anyone to swing by Canna if you happen to be in Oakland during October.
That is so cool. I love the perspective that you're talking about. These experiences sound fantastic. Folks, we're talking with Roman Nunez about how marketers like you can still find success for your brands, even in restricted industries. And we're going to talk about brand authenticity, community, and more. But first, a quick message from Neil Schaefer.
Social gets quite complex because you need to be everywhere all the time. And you need a tool. It is a lot of data, it's a lot of conversations, and even if you are a single brand and you're trying to do this yourself, it's a lot of different channels. So you need to be able to handle all this in a very, very efficient way. Let me tell you, I've gone through the history, starting with TweetDeck and then Hootsuite, and I've sort of moved on because I know that spending an hour a day doing this or spending 15 minutes a day doing this is a huge gap in terms of efficiency, and it allows me to focus on the actual engagement with people. That's where the magic happens, right? So if you don't use the right tool, you miss out on the opportunity. You miss out on conversations. You miss out on sort of the history of your relationships with these people. And you might miss out on an entire social network because you're not able to flip through them easily like you can in Agorapulse. Say, oh, wow, I already have 10 notifications in my Facebook. I've been ignoring it. I got to get in there, right? And all the other features that Agorapulse brings. Now, Agorapulse has stayed the course. And one of the things I love about Agorapulse that not a lot of people talk about are the reports. The reports are awesome. As an agency, I will often use the reports. I will customize them. I will not use everything that's in there. But they are a firm basis to show the ROI of what you're doing in social to your clients or to your boss.
So this sounds a little overwhelming to me. All these different workarounds you're trying to go through, you're having to be incredibly creative all the time. How do you maintain brand authenticity when you're always constantly having to find these workarounds and alternative channels?
You know, the brand itself, we have our ethos, which is cannabis, community, and cause. Those three pillars are what we stand on. As long as we are providing the best high quality, safe, tested products. And as long as we are giving back to our community and taking care of those who take care of us, and as long as we stay true to our cause, um, I feel like those things are going to stand out. Those things are going to get us across the finish line. They're going to help us hit all our goals. As long as we're doing that, I feel like we're headed in the right direction. So, um, all our marketing decisions are based around that. We see we have a lot of charity stuff on the books as far as just cleaning up our neighborhood, just doing trash pickups and getting people on board with that. So, um, really staying true to who we are, I think, is going to be the best marketing tool we got.
That is a fantastic mindset. And I can see where your creative background has helped you in a lot of these areas. What about your tech startup experience? Has that translated well to cannabis marketing, or are there aspects of it that you just completely had to forget about or reimagine?
Yeah, the tech stuff, systems, data, that taught me all that stuff. So I'm bringing that to Canna. Truthfully, uh, cannabis operators aren't always from that background. So for me coming in there, there was a lot of work to do. I'm like, well, we need to organize our data. You know what I mean? This is the
Yeah.
most valuable thing we got is data. So taking all that, understanding our customers, age demographics and all that good stuff. That is what we used to do at Yelp. That at my previous experience at even I started a little company called Eat 24 that was just a little startup, and it got built big enough to where it was acquired by Grubhub and then eventually by Yelp. So it was changed hands. So we built this business from the ground up, and what I learned from that experience is just really understanding your data. Get your data, put it um, in a nice format, like whatever tool you use. Make sure that you have all your dashboards set up so you could really read what's happening and tell that story, and kind of chart your own path. But that's what I brought to this experience was understanding how valuable that data is, um, and using that, leveraging that to ultimately turn that into revenue.
Data is absolutely imperative, and you've made it very clear, throughout this interview that community is also extremely imperative. I wonder if you could share a little bit more about how you're kind of building an online community, the digital community. How are you encouraging engagement there, knowing that traditional advertising just isn't an option?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's really, so online stuff, like I said, like, when we advertise events, we're always like saying like tag your friends. We're doing stuff like, we started using this item. It's a called a cannabis bouquet, where instead of just getting some weed in a jar, it's actually on a stick. It looks like a bouquet. So what we do is we use that. right? And say, and make a clever Instagram post about it, not advertising it necessarily, but it generates like likes and reshares, and you know what I mean? It gets those good metrics going in our social. So trying to be unique. And then, like I mentioned about our younger teammates, they're like on top of like what videos are cool. So I'm like, guys, like make fun TikTok videos. So it really, like, again, just kind of like creating characters too. Like people know our bud tenders now from social media. They're like, oh, like I see you on there. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like creating like little superstars behind the counter. Um, just fun, having fun. You got to have fun. It's got to be authentic. We're not trying too hard. I think that's the key. Don't make sure whatever your marketing messaging you're doing, whether it's on social media or in your email newsletters, whatever, just be totally authentic, be fun, and be lighthearted about it. Because I think sometimes if you can get too serious and kind of get in the weeds there.
Right? Yeah, that sounds fantastic. And I love that you're bringing your staff into your social presence. It's something we talked a lot about on a previous episode with Deerbrook Markets. They're a supermarket chain here, local to me in St. Louis. And, they're putting their butcher on their TikTok account. They're putting their, all the produce guy, whatever, So when folks come into their stores and they've got, I don't know, dozens of locations here in St. Louis, there's a lot of folks that they could draw on, a lot of stories that they can tap, right? They're bringing all that in and they're making those community connections. I love that you're doing that. You talked about dashboards a moment ago. So you've got all these activities going on social media. How are you currently measuring the actual business impact of everything everything that you're doing on social media to in-store sales? How are you
You,
connecting those dots?
we really I made a conscious effort to not try to look at those KPIs as this we're using social media to push our business. I really steered away from that in the beginning. I'm like, we are limited. We technically can't post. We're gonna do it anyway, but we're gonna try to get around the rules in a weird way. So let's not use social media. Let's not lean on that to get us sales. Let's lean on that just to build community. If it does get us sales and it does generate business, that's fantastic. I look at the data, of course, and it doesn't tend to translate to revenue specifically. It's more just like new customer count will come up. We'll start seeing new customers come in. So it's like those are the KPIs that I track, the key performance metrics is like, is it bringing people through the door? And ultimately that does lead to revenue. But I track all that stuff. But I try not to lean on that to build business. I try to lean on that just to foster community. And we use every day, we don't do a lot of discounts. We find that we do a lot of better with everyday low pricing and deals. So we'll have like bundles and deals, and we'll run promos with some of promotional items and promote like buy two get one. We'll do a lot of that instead of offering a lot of discounts. Um, and then we're treating people like family. So if we're doing that, then we're not resting so much on social media because we can't, but also because um, it's better, I think, to rest on your business practices and amazing customer service as far as moving the needle on revenue. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. You can't have tracked links,
For our business, because
et
I could
cetera.
see for another
Yeah.
business, maybe that would be wrong for other business, but just for ours specifically, I'd say that.
Yeah, it's almost freeing, I think, to a social media, marketer to be able to come into an organization like this and say, "Look, we're not going to tie you to leads and revenue. All we want you to do is go out there and make people feel good about themselves and help them learn a little bit more about our business and our industry overall." Yeah, and then you can be creative as you want. I love that. So, what resources or communities have you found to be like just the most valuable with keeping up? I mean, this is I don't know. I'm still kind of struggling with this concept of it's been hard enough for me the last decade to keep up with everything that's going on with TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, now X and so on, to have to keep up with regulations as well. Again, that feels overwhelming to me. Do you have resources for that?
Yeah, I mean, in our industry, we have different seminars and webinars that you can kind of attend that I'm always on, and it just talks about what's going on in the industry, best practices, new stuff like that. I do a lot of that stuff just to kind of keep with what trends and what's happening in the industry. Um, but as far as, marketing via social media, I kind of do depend a little bit on some of our, like I said, younger, more savvy, because it's like it's almost silly out there in art. And if you look at other dispensaries and other cannabis companies, a lot of them are like shadow banned and blocked, and you can't really even find. So it's like for us, it's like let's have fun, let's make sure that we're bringing joy to people, and then when they see our posts, they laugh or they giggle or they get something out of it. But yeah, we don't really take our revenue. We don't put it in the hands of social media, like I mentioned. It's just more of a tool just to show that hey, we're having fun over here. It's a good time at Canna. Come on through.
I could not agree more. You guys are absolutely doing it right. The competitors are doing it wrong, which is why they're getting banned and blocked and shadow banned and so on. They're trying to skirt around those rules to make a fast buck rather than create that long term strategy of building relationships, building community. I got to hope for your sake they're not listening and they don't learn from you to your success. But this has been fantastic, Roman. You've been absolutely amazing. For folks who do want to learn more about you or even connect with you, where should they go?
You know what? I would say check us out. We're on Instagram at Canna_dispensary. You could go to our website, which is cannaoak.com. Um, and it's just a real great place to be. Even if you don't use cannabis, it's an interesting, beautiful store to check out. So if you're in the area, we'd love to say hi to you. And if you're a marketer out there, come by, pick my brain anytime. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Roman. I appreciate your time. We'll have all those links in the show notes. I will be sure to stop by next time I'm in Oakland, California. Thanks to all of you for listening. Don't forget to find the Social Pulse Podcast Retail Edition on Apple and drop us a note if you like today's episode, if there's something else you'd like us to cover in the future. Until next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of Social Pulse Podcast Retail Edition, hosted by Mike Alton and powered by Agorapulse, the #1 rated social media management solution, which you can learn more about at agorapulse.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player and be sure to leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us.